You're recording.
Hi, this is Pastor Ted Marshall, along with a good friend of mine, Mike Lemish. And Mike is a historian. He's an author, and he's probably the number one when you come to it about historian about the Canine Corps, and especially the Vietnam era. Mike is the author of several books, and we'll talk about those books and plug them a little bit. I've got them up on Amazon here in the back. I'll show you where you can get to them. But the important thing, I am so blessed to have Michael as a friend for over 25 years. And he's up in Maine, and we just had to rib him a little bit. He's got snow outside, and I'm getting ready to go back to the pool later this afternoon. But he's coming back down to Florida. See, he's not one of those guys that doesn't know where the warm weather is. He happens to have a brother that lives in Florida, so he gets down here often enough. And Michael, thank you so much for joining us. And
glad to be here.
Michael's got some photographs that he's provided for us. And let's go back a little bit. How did you get interested, and what kind of led you to find out more about our war dogs, or canine dogs?
Well, it was back in 1998. I was at the library looking at a book on Vietnam War, and I came across a photograph of a Marine dog handler and dog, German Shepherd, and I said, "Wow, that's interesting." And I read a little bit in the book. They mentioned, well, they had police dogs in Vietnam, and I went looking for more information, and I couldn't find anything. The last book published was 1955 regarding the war dogs of World War II. I said, here's a subject that hasn't been worked over, and it has to do with dogs, and I've always been involved with dogs. So I said, I'm going to write a book about them.
Have you written any books before that?
No. Whole bunch of magazine articles, mostly.
Okay.
Not a single dog article at all.
Well, that's now. Go ahead.
That one photo appears on the cover of my second book, Forever Full, and that's what spurred me to get into it, to research and write about it.
Well, we got some photographs that he's going to throw up there, and you can tell us a little bit about them. But when you started reaching out and talking to the dog handlers, how'd you get a hold of them? How'd you find us guys and talk to us?
It was very difficult at the very beginning because, don't forget, it was like 1998, 1999. The internet was just beginning to start at that point.
Okay.
And I came across the name from somebody in Rhode Island on a local newspaper who was a dog handler in Vietnam, and I contacted him. And we wound up, he was the very first person I interviewed, and from there, I went on and started doing my research, which brought me all around Washington, D.C. and down south, and a whole bunch of different museums. The information was scattered about all over the place.
When did you get involved with the Vietnam Dog Handlers Association?
Right at the very beginning, when they first formed. About a few months into it, I became their official historian. And was their historian for 13 or 14 years, I believe.
Now, I remember the early days when it started, and we were just blown away by all the research and the photographs and the things that you've put together, and being able to tell the history of something that a lot of people didn't know about. And if it wasn't for you, Michael, I think it would have been a long time past before it would have come out. And that all the hard work and so forth, the traveling and everything, and be able to go into those archives, it's kind of like being a detective, isn't it? Trying to find this stuff.
Well, a lot of it was fascinating for me, going to the National Archives in Washington, or I should say in Maryland, and I had to get a Freedom of Information Act to have some of the files were still sealed from Vietnam.
I'll be darned.
And it was just great for me to know I was the first one to actually look at these documents from Vietnam. and some of them even had mud on them. I mean, soiled. I mean, dirt. I mean, it was incredibly moving for me to be the first one to go in there and pull this information out.
You've got all kinds of projects that you've been working on, and I've, we've been blessed by seeing you speak at different locations and different areas. I remember when they had the dedication of the War Dog Memorial at the actually at a graveyard at on Ridgel Graveyard up north, and I remember when we came up to see that. I'm trying to remember the name of the town and everything that was at, but I remember being there and seeing that, where they found an old World War I graveyard or canine, and there was a monument there, and
there was a Houtzdale Cemetery.
Yes.
That monument was erected in 1923 to honor the war dogs, what they called Red Cross dogs in World War One.
Mm-hmm.
And what's amazing is, I mean, when I started writing my first book in 1988, there was only one. That was the only memorial for war dogs in the entire United States.
Yes, indeed.
After 1998, that they started to be recognized, which is really amazing.
It really is.
And I talked to guys from World War II when they were still alive, and got a chance to interview them, and they said, "You're the first person in 40 years to ask me about our dogs in World War II." It's truly moving, and it motivated me to keep going on. And after I did the first book, I found out more information about Vietnam and decided to do a second book and focus more on Vietnam and the 4,000 dogs that served, along with 10,000 handlers.
I know you've done some specials on television. You've done a History Channel. You've had some things that have come there. Also, you've been involved with some movies, and I'm just tickled pink. Matter of fact, I'm going to hold this up to the camera a little bit better if they can see it. Tell us about Footprints, about the movie, and how you got involved in that.
Well, it's kind of interesting. I met the fellow at the annual German Shepherd rescue meet in New England, and the dog featured in that movie, Rocket, was actually a rescue dog. And I went to adopt him and found out he was already adopted, and I wound up being blessed with a retired military dog, Lucy, that I picked up at from Lackland Air Force Base in Texas. And but you talk about life going in a circle, and then I met the producer of that movie, and I got involved with him in helping him out and that type of thing.
That's great. And we also understand that, and I was really excited to read that you're doing another screenplay. You're doing a screenplay, and I've got to say that was one that really tugged on my heart. And you crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's on that one when it comes to being able to reach out and touch that chord of love that those dogs show for us and have for us.
Well, there's a gazillion people writing screenplays out there, so it's always a long shot. Everything in the screenplay, I mean, it is fictional, but it's based on all true events. The primary character was based on Sergeant Robert Hartsock, who was the only dog handler in Vietnam to be awarded the Medal of Honor posthumously. So, but the idea was to bring together a sense of what it means to be a person, a dog handler like yourself, connected to a dog, okay? And when you think about it, I mean, God gave us these dogs, okay, as tools, okay? And they're not really weapons of war. I mean, if you consider them a weapon, it's a weapon to save lives. And that's what these dogs did in Vietnam. I mean, they averted more than 10,000 casualties, okay? And just by finding tripwires, booby traps, mines, that type of thing. I mean, and you think today, with all the technology we have, we still rely on dogs every day.
And the amazing thing is that on that note is that they keep discovering that dogs can do more and more and more that we could never even fathom that they can do. For instance, being able to detect cancer in certain skin cancers, incredible things. Their sense of hearing, and I think that the Lord knew that we needed help, and He knew that we needed to see what unconditional love is, and above that, He needed us to make sure that we understand where that comes from, because they're just amazing, and tapping into the people that love dogs and understand dogs, and many of our cases that in the military that we're here because of that brave dog and that love that dog had for us, and wanting to keep us safe and making sure that that we were okay. And in return, we found out how important it is to make sure that they're okay, to care for them, and to actually show them love as much as we could. We've got some photographs, and if you would show some of the photographs and let Mike explain what we're seeing here.
Well, the photograph we're looking at right now is in Korea. There was a scout dog platoon in Korea leading patrols.
Mm-hmm.
During that time, nothing was done during the daytime. These patrols were all done at night. And you can see the helicopters like the ones you see on the TV show MASH.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they transported the scout dogs around, basically by helicopter. And I should, I mean, the Chinese and North Koreans did not like the dogs at all.
No.
And when the battle line stagnated, and on one occasion, which has been documented, the Chinese would blare out on the loudspeakers, propaganda for the U.S. troops. And in one case, they said, "Yankee, take your dog and go home."
Well, the other thing also that many people don't know, Michael, and you can verify that, is the bounty that they put on the dog and the handlers in Vietnam.
That's true. I mean, it varied. I mean, it may have been just a bag of rice or whatever, or just a few dong, that type of thing. But the dogs and handlers in Vietnam, whether they were scout or sentry or whatever, were targets. They realized the dog, how important the dog was, and they were usually the first one to be targeted, because they usually led patrols or they were out on sentry duty at night, that type of thing. And the Viet Cong and the NBA, I mean, they were given rewards if they could bring down a dog or a handler.
Show us some more pictures, Drew. There you go.
Well, this is one of the first pictures I came across. This is actually the very first Vietnam dog handler I interviewed. He's passed away a few years ago. Sergeant Robert Kohler from Lincoln, Rhode Island, with his dog Rebel. And he was over in Vietnam for a year in 1968. And we became very good friends. And it's funny because when I first interviewed him, he said, well, a couple of other people interviewed me. They're going to do books or whatever. Nothing ever happened. So he was surprised when I did finally get the book out, that type of thing. But he was the very first dog handler I interviewed. And I was very grateful to know him. So.
Yeah, I see Rebel's got his tracking harness on.
Yep. And that was up near Chu Lai, I believe.
Okay. Next picture, Drew.
Oh, here we are in World War II. And this is a Marine. I forget the name. He's got a Thompson submachine gun with a Doberman. And the Marines were always associated with the Doberman Pinscher during World War II. But actually, half the dogs the Marines had were were German Shepherds, not just Dobermans. So, and they served at Peleliu, Okinawa, Iwo Jima, that type of thing. And
isn't there a dog monument, war monument for
on Guam? There was
Guam?
a monument that was dedicated to the dogs that the Marines lost there during World War II. And that was rebuilt, I believe, in the 1990s by a Dr. Putney, who was a veterinarian with the Marines. And he got a monument rededicated and renewed, that type of thing. Interesting thing is, all the I did a story about the one Marine dog named Big Boy, and each dog had a card with all the information, all their history during World War II, where they served and all that, and discharge papers. And these cards were going to be tossed into a dumpster one time at was it Fort Lejeune or but they were tearing down a building. They came across all these index cards with all these dog pictures, and they're going to be tossed out.
Oh my gosh.
And someone said, no, we should save those. And they wound up in the National Archives. So
thank God.
it was lost history. I mean.
Okay, Drew, next photo.
This, I think, was in Vietnam. I think this was actually a training photo. Okay. Where they would put out a large live charge nearby with both the handler and dog. And the idea was to keep the dog calm during any explosion, so they wouldn't, go off and get nervous, that type of thing. I think it was more of a training exercise than an actual attack. Because you would have been one hell of a cameraman to be.
Oh my gosh!
In front of that.
Because it looks like he's standing up. Go ahead, Drew.
This was just a great photo. It's a Signal Corps photo, and in a couple of things on Facebook, I mentioned, well, the dogs took their orders over the radio telephone, but you couldn't handle it because they didn't have any thumbs. So the RTO would hold the mic up for him to get his orders in. So
I love it.
But obviously, they're taking a break during a mission.
Where's my food?
This one here is a dog handler. I believe he's a Marine. I forget his name. I have to look it up. But his dog was just shot by a sniper, like we talked about. They put a bounty on the dogs and the handlers, and this dog was shot by a sniper. And they just happened to be a photographer there at the time to take this photo. So I think it's very moving. So. This is World War II. I mean, you had to parachute dogs into combat, and the Quartermaster Corps came up with harnesses, and this is the harness they came up with. And basically, they, attached a parachute to them, pushed the dog out the window, out of the plane, fuselage, and they landed.
Being a dog
right now, but he won't be.
Being a dog lover, the first thing that you look at is the face, and what he's saying to you in that face is like, really? Are you kidding me? I'm gonna do what? Okay, Drew.
Just another view in Vietnam. You can see the dogs, and everyone's quite muddy and wet, that type of thing. They both have working harnesses on, and they're taking a break at this time. I'm not sure exactly where it was taken, but probably around 1969, 1960. So, and this is just a photo I came across just recently, and a dog and handler at the target range where the dog is being acclimated to gunfire. So
he's a critic right there. I can see that. It's just off to the right a little bit, boss. I think the grouping's not good, boss.
Yeah.
And they look on the handler's face. Oh, always a critic. Always a critic.
Right.
That's beautiful.
Well, this photograph is very interesting. It took place in Burma during World War II.
Mm-hmm.
During World War II, there was actually 2 men enlisted with their dogs and served with their dogs. Okay, but they all
They were civilian dogs that they owned before they came in. Oh, okay.
exactly. But they went in as the owner and the dog, enlisted together, and they stayed together. So
Perfect.
I mean, there was just 2 occasions in World War II where that took place. Okay,
Oh, that's neat.
I just think it's something you'd never see today. But
Yeah.
back in World War II, anything went. Okay, and a guy wants to enlist with his dog, and he's a German Shepherd. Fine, we'll take him.
Well, they had how many dogs did they actually have serve in World War II?
18,000.
My gosh.
They
amazing.
40,000 were actually brought in to reception areas.
Mm-hmm.
Were brought down to 18,000. The bulk of them were used for Coast Guard duties along the east and west coast.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say about 8,000 dogs served outside of the United States, basically. And it should be noted that when World War II started, right after Pearl Harbor, we only had 40 sled dogs. It was actually a woman from New York City who was a dog breeder,
mm-hmm.
who told the military, we need to get dogs involved in this. And she actually started the whole Dogs for Defense program in World War II that introduced dogs into the military.
Mm-hmm.
In World War I, we just borrowed dogs from the French and the British. Okay, we didn't have any of our own. And in World War II, we just had sled dogs. And this woman, Eileen Erlanger, said, no, dogs have to be a part of this as well. And that's how the whole canine corps started. But to think of 40,000 dogs being, donated, accepted. The one thing about at the end of World War II was they were all returned, or most of them were returned to their original owners or their handler. They were retrained. Okay?
Yes.
And in 1955, the government changed the classification of dogs to equipment. So they became the same as a tank or a tent or a rifle or anything. They became government property. And they were not, once up until after Vietnam, until 1985, when President Clinton was in office, these dogs were euthanized. They weren't returned to civilian life. And President Clinton, and I was working on the program with a number of other people, got the law passed where, any dog that could no longer serve in the military that was not aggressive could be returned to a civilian ownership. And that's how I got my dog, Lucy, number N430. She was only 2 years old and got injured in Lackland, foreleg, and they didn't want her anymore. And they were afraid of what do they call it? Early onset arthritis.
Mm-hmm.
So before this law was passed, she would have been euthanized. She wound up with me, and we spent over 12 years together. So no arthritis. So.
That is awesome. I wonder when you think about that decision that was made to have them, made equipment. I wonder what the reasoning behind that was.
I think it was just more of the military being the military. Okay, it's like 4,000 dogs served in Vietnam. Only 220 returned to the United States. Okay, none of those 220 went to civilians at all. They stayed in service until they were put down or euthanized, that type of thing. And I think the reason so few dogs came back was everybody at the time wanted to get out of Vietnam, and dogs down on the pecking order. If we had the internet back then, I think things would have been different. I mean, people, the people were, contacting newspapers and that type of thing, trying to get the dogs back. And, the military, was saying, well, we can't take them back because of medical reasons. They could bring infections in, that type of thing. But hey, during World War II, they were in Iwo Jima, Okinawa, Burma, and India and China, and they came back with no problems. So, but I've never found a smoking gun, but it was basically cheaper to leave the dogs behind than to bring them back. And even when this law, the military fought against this retirement law when it came out too, because it would involve work for them. Okay. Oh, it's going to be more work for us, retire dogs than to simply put them down. So I mean, the military did fight it tooth and nail, basically, that, return these dogs. But we've been doing it for over 20 years now. So we have dogs from, daily service in Desert Storm in Iraq and Afghanistan, and they're being returned, and and be able to have live out their lives basically in comfort and peace.
Next picture, what did you got? There we go.
Well, this as a Huey, a Slick, okay. So, and this is how dogs and men were transported throughout Vietnam. And the one thing, just like in the car, the dogs love to stick their heads out the window. So,
oh my gosh, you bet.
Up here, they're 1,000 feet up in the air, but
those are great pictures. What else you got for us, Drew? Is that the last picture, Drew?
That's the last picture.
Okay, thanks. Voice in my ears. Michael, we sure appreciate you spending some time with us, and would like to do this more. And anything that you've got coming up, you let us know. And anything special. One thing I want to let people know is that if you go to Amazon and look for Michael Lemish, and you see his name right there, the way it's spelled, everything. You look for Mike and check out some of his books. And I wanted to ask you about the new book. And you've sent me a copy. As soon as it gets here, I'll sit down and read it from cover to cover. That's the way I am when I find a book I like. Tell us about the book Before Pearl Harbor.
Well, it's complete departure from the dogs. Okay. I learned that everyone has heard of the Flying Tigers, or if you don't know history at all. They flew in China against the Japanese during World War II. But there was actually a secret plan before Pearl Harbor got attacked that we would bomb China by sending bombers, B-17 bombers, to China and having Americans fly them and basically bomb Japan. But everybody was slow to react, and some people were against it, that type of thing. And basically, the Japanese beat us to the punch and hit Pearl Harbor first. So, and I think one of the reasons they wanted to hit Pearl Harbor because they knew we were going to be sending bombers to China. In fact, when Pearl Harbor was bombed, there was a number of Hudson bombers sitting at Burbank, California, right at the airport. They were ready to be transported to China. So we were prepared to do some bombing on China. I mean, bombing on Japan before they did, Pearl Harbor. So it's an interesting story and a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff going on.
That is just amazing, folks. Check out his books. Check out the Canine Histories. They're incredible stuff. We're just so excited about your screenplay that you did. Thanks for all the work that you've done, Michael, through all the years, and being part of history and digging it up. And above all, thank you for loving our canine dogs that much that you even rescued some of them and brought them to your home.
Well, I'd like to thank you for what you're doing now, and also your service in Vietnam, or Thailand, I should say. But thank you for your service too.
I appreciate that. God bless you, and we will talk to you soon, Michael.
Okay.
Stand by if you would. Go ahead, Drew.